Io premetto brevissimissimo, non rompo le scatole, non faccio lunghe, e volevo soltanto ringraziarvi di essere venuti e presentarvi, anche se ho già visto che ha fatto un giro e si è presentata da sola, Caroline Steckley, che vi farà compagnia questa ora parlando in inglese, come appunto abbiamo cercato di proporvi, e so che è il punto che soprattutto vi interessa, oltre alla musica, che è sempre una cosa piacevole per tutti. E niente, vi raccomando, per quanto potete, di venire anche le prossime volte, perché avremo sempre argomenti molto interessanti. Vedrete che oggi sarete soddisfatti, quindi ci sarà uno stimolo in più a continuare a seguire il progetto, che è doveroso dirlo, è stato sostenuto dalla provincia, dall'ufficio bilinguismo, e quindi è un progetto al quale teniamo molto che riesca, e direi che oggi abbiamo fatto un bel primo passo. Allora Caroline, prego, accomodati, o se stai in piedi, e grazie ancora di tutto.
Grazie. Actually, in today's lesson number 1, I'm using the microphone instead of screaming at you. Normally I scream at people. I'm a teacher, and I normally work with students who are 14 years to 17 years old, so I'm often yelling and screaming. So with you, I'm going to use a microphone. That way, the people who are following at home can hear us, okay? So if you're following at home, I can't see you, but I'm so happy that you're here. If you're following in presence, I can see you, and I'm also happy that you're here. We're going to speak English the whole time. If you understand me, great. If you don't understand me, great. This is an experience, okay? I'm going to ask you to do some speaking. If you're alone, you can talk to yourself. I do it all the time. It's normal for me, okay? So let me first talk about what our series looks like this year. Every year we kind of have a series. Sometimes it's more serious. Sometimes we do more with culture. This year is finally music, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. Now, I am not an expert. I am an expert language teacher, but I'm not an expert in music, and I do not use artificial intelligence. So there may be mistakes in this presentation. Okay, so let me go through what our series looks like this year. I do things that I like to teach. So if you don't like music, I'm sorry. I hope you'll like it by the end. We'll see. So our first lesson is jazz. We're going to talk about that in a second. Next week, we're going to talk about 1930s and 40s, American music. It's going to be a big band, swing, and the American songbook. Okay? So all the songs that we sort of grew up with, the Cole Porter songs, the Broadway musicals, all those kinds of things. Hopefully, it's one of the most popular types of music. Even now, kids still listen to that music. So we're going to talk about that. I will be here again next week. I live in Trieste, but I'm American. So I live in Trieste, so I'm not always here. Sometimes we do just online. Sometimes we do in presence and online. Next week, I'll be here again. Lesson 3 is only online. Okay, that's going to be on the 10th of November. And on that one, we're actually going to go outside of my comfort zone because we're going to talk about country music, which I've always hated. I've never liked it. I find it twangy and annoying. But actually, there are certain people within the country music world who I love. Dolly Parton, she's a national treasure for me. I love her. So I'm very excited to talk about her, Willie Nelson, Hank Williams, but especially how country music went mainstream. That's what we're going to talk about, how something that was kind of a niche, okay? You would say nicchio, but we would say niche, how it became mainstream. So we're going to talk about that. And I know that there are a lot of people who love country music. And I have to say that in doing the research for these lessons, sometimes I find a way in. We're going to talk about the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, so that'll be a fun lesson. That will be online. Then on the 17th, we're going to talk about the birth of hip hop. So the young people in the audience listen to probably most of the music that's popular now is based on rap and hip hop. But a lot of people don't know the history of how it started and that it goes way, way, way back to the 1970s and 80s. So we're going to talk about the history of hip hop and where we are today with that. And then did I put the same date? I think I made a mistake with the date. Yes. So should be the 17th. This is the wrong date. This would be the week after. I don't remember. We'll check that one. So this is not the correct date, but lesson 5 is going to be what the kids are listening to, okay? So you notice up there, I put a garbage can. I put the thing, because most of us, our parents didn't like our music. We don't like our kids' music. So it's something that continues. But I do want to talk about some of the things that are happening in popular music now, especially in America. Maybe you've been following the situation with Bad Bunny and the Super Bowl, so we're going to talk about that. So I'm happy to see some young people because I want to hear from you guys as well. Okay, so that's an overview of what we're going to do over the next few weeks. So this is the last one. It's at the end of November. Maybe it's December 1st. The 24th, okay. So it's the 24th, so sorry about that. I told you I don't use artificial intelligence. I should. It would get it right. And then on December 1st, that's our last lesson for this season, and it's going to be a quiz show. So that means if you followed every lesson, you can win big prizes. You can win a washing machine. You can win a new car. You can win, you can win a million things. Maybe even a piece of candy. I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to think about the prize and make sure it's the right one for you. Okay? So let's get back to today. We're talking about the jazz age. So, the kind of teacher I am, I'm not a big lecturer. I want to find out where you're at. So I'm going to ask you some questions. First, I want you to find a partner or a group of 3. Okay, so find the person next to you, and I want you to discuss these questions. If you're at home, you can talk to yourself, you can talk to someone who's with you, but these are just true or false questions. The first question is, the jazz age was made famous by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Number 2, the jazz age was a time of prosperity in the United States. And number 3, another name for the jazz age was the Roaring Twenties. I'm going to give you a minute to talk to your partners, read them, speak in English about what you think the answers are. Go. Yes? No? am very proud of you. Every person found a partner. Good for you. I'm proud. I hope you sat next to someone who's more intelligent than you. That's the trick. You always want to sit next to someone who's a little bit smarter than you are so that you can get the right answers. Let's try the first one. The jazz age was made famous by F. Scott Fitzgerald. True or false? The first question that you must answer, true or false, is the jazz age was made famous by F. Scott Fitzgerald. True or false? How many of you say true? How many of you say false? How many of you are abstaining? Okay, all right, well, at least you're honest. It's actually true, okay? Now, the jazz age became, it got that name basically as soon as it was published in a book called The Great Gatsby. Well done. So to get a little window into the jazz age or the roaring 20s, I hope you said true for the third one as well, the roaring 20s, you can read The Great Gatsby and you'll get an idea of what things look like at that time. So the second one, the jazz age was a time of prosperity in the United States. Yes or no? Are we already talking about 1929? Let's talk about 1920 to 20. It was a time of prosperity. In fact, it was the first time ever in America that more people were living in the cities rather than in the rural areas. There was a lot of money. World War I had ended. People were getting kind of recovering. There was something called, do you remember the lost generation? Have you heard about that? Can you think of any examples of someone who would be part of the lost generation? The lost generation. Where did they go? Why can't they find themselves, right? So the lost generation would be basically anybody who lived to tell the tale of World War I, okay? Because think of all those young men who were killed. And so the people who survived were recovering also mentally from it, disillusioned, sad, but ready to take life with a different approach, right? When you're like, hey, I made it, it's time to party. But there was also more money. People had more disposable income. People overspent, and that, some things led to the crash of the stock market of 1929. But in these times, it was a time of like, let's party. It's kind of like post-COVID. If you survived COVID, you just wanted to go out and be with people and party and have fun, okay? It's not quite the same thing, but we can imagine. So the period was a time of great creativity, which I still believe that culture is the only thing that saves us after great tragedy. Music, art, think of the Harlem Renaissance, think of Ernest Hemingway, think of the writers and painters who went to Paris, the Americans who were disillusioned with life in America and left. But the people who stayed were having a pretty good time. So let's talk about that today. First, okay, this is gonna be more demanding of you. So I have some key words up here. Some of them you know, some of them maybe you don't know. That's okay. So here are the key words. I want you to talk with the partner and see how many of these you know. The first one is, oops, lost generation without a comma. That's a mistake. See, I should use artificial intelligence, okay? The second one is big cheese. Cat's meow. Speakeasy. Bootlegger. Gold digger. Charleston. Flapper. The Cotton Club. Tin Pan Alley, and 1929. I'm going to give you 5 minutes talk to a partner and see how many of these key words you can explain without using Google or ChatGPT. Okay? Go. Okay. Even, I think everybody got at least one. Did you get at least one? What one did you get? Okay, good. So, thank you for that. The big cheese. What's big cheese? A big cheese is an important person. Okay? Now, why is this going to become important? It's going to become important because of what's happening at the time. We're going to talk a lot about New York City. We're going to talk about that key word. There are a couple, we said lost generation before without the comma, right? There's a mistake, but you knew what the lost generation was. It was that whole group of people who were coming of age after World War I. The big cheese is a VIP, someone who's like, you know, oh, here comes the big cheese, the important person. This is an expression that started in the 1920s, and we continue to use it now. Okay? So if you're the president of the company, your friends are going to be like, oh, you're the big cheese now. Okay? And it started from that time. The cat's meow. Heard that one? It's the same as, no, it's not. There's only one up here. The cat's meow. You are the cat's meow. You're fantastic. The slang. So even in the 1920s, just like every generation has words that you use that your parents don't understand, the 1920s had lots of words that were meant, you know, like slang, that's what's almost like your secret language, right? So that, and it's very important to always stay on top of your slang. You don't want to use old words, right? And so the 1920s was all about young people distinguishing themselves from their parents and having lots of new words, using them, staying up to date with your slang is important too. So if I say, you're the cat's meow, okay? Another one is, you are the bee's knees. The bee, bzz, and these are knees, the bee's knees. Where does that come from? We may find out later. A speakeasy, you know that one, didn't you? A speakeasy, did you know that one, Lump? You can tell he's a retired history teacher, right? So speakeasy was an underground bar, a venue for drinking alcohol when alcohol was outlawed. Alcohol was not illegal. It was illegal to sell alcohol, and it was illegal to buy alcohol, but it was okay to drink it. Incredible, right? Okay. It's the name in general for these sort of illicit venues where people went on purpose to drink and listen to music and dance and wear short skirts and do things that were unacceptable, okay? What's a bootlegger?
A prostitute could be a criminal or a thief, something illegal, it's related.
Good guess. It is something illegal. It's not a prostitute.
The record of music.
That's true. There is a use of the word to talk about like a bootleg recording. That's true, but that's not what it came from. But thank you, I forgot about that. So a bootleg, person who makes their own alcohol. And if you make your own alcohol, you might want to open a speakeasy so that you can sell your alcohol, okay? So a bootlegger is someone who makes alcohol. Homemade alcohol is called moonshine. Okay? Now, when we talk about the 1920s, there were a lot of people making beer specifically, okay? So a bootlegger is a person who made illegal alcohol, but later also illegal music. You know, it became a word that was used in other contexts as well. A gold digger. A gold digger? No, nothing to do with teeth. Someone who's searching for gold. How are they searching for gold? A gold digger is a person who gets close to another person for the money. Okay? Like that time that you won €1 million and everybody wanted to be your friend. It's the same thing. So a gold digger is the person who wants to have a relationship with you for your money. Well, yeah, it's corrupt, but someone who's interested in your money, not in you. Okay? What about, so this, we still talk, it's usually women we call gold diggers. Why is that? I think there are male gold diggers as well, but tend to think about women as being gold diggers. Okay? If you read The Great Gatsby, there's a gold digger in there, right? Who is she? Lanfranco, do you remember who the gold digger is? She dies. What's her name? I just reread it and I can't remember her name either. It'll come to me. The one who's having the affair with the husband of, okay. The wife of the auto mechanic. Yeah. Okay. So the Charleston, even the young people. Nope. Charleston is a city, but that's not what we're talking about. It's a dance. It's that one. We're going to see it. I'm not going to even demonstrate it for you. What's a flapper? What is a flapper? Yeah.
Parties and alcohol.
Repeat, please.
Please? The flappers are people, rich people, who spend they don't need to work, and they spend their time in parties and drinking around the clock.
Good guess. No. But it's a good guess. In fact, maybe part of it is true. A flapper, when you think about the 1920s and the jazz age, what women do you see? How are they dressed? What does their hair look like? She's got a flapper haircut. Yeah. She's a flapper right here. Look at that hair. You've got flapper hair. Okay? Yeah. So you've got the flapper girls, right? They have a bob. We call that a bob. In fact, there's a famous short story by F. Scott Fitzgerald called Bernice Bobs Her Hair, and that was her act of rebel.
Flapper, Charleston are similar.
No, what does a flapper do? She dances.
She dances. Okay. Yeah. She dances.
Of course, Charleston, yes.
So a flapper is the one you see dancing the Charleston, right? You know her outfit. Those awesome outfits, the hair. Okay, that's a flapper. At the time, a flapper was a definition of a modern woman. Yeah.
Not only for the hair.
It's a lifestyle, right? Okay. What's the Cotton Club? It's a movie from the 1980s with Clint Eastwood. It's a very, very famous, huh?
Maybe it's a brand.
Yeah, it was then too. New York.
New York.
Yeah, what's a club famous for jazz called at that time? What's it called? Speakeasy. Okay, so Cotton Club was the most famous speakeasy. Okay? Have you ever heard of Duke Ellington? Where did he get his start? Have you ever heard of Lena Horne? Where did she get her start? At the Cotton Club. Okay. Tin Pan Alley. Do you know this one? If you do, you're a genius. Yay. Something to learn. Tin Pan Alley, we'll talk about that in a moment, still exists in New York City. It's a group of buildings on 28th Street and Broadway where all the musicians and the music publishers were all together making the music that we still sing today, okay? 1929. What happened in 1929?
The economic crisis.
The stock market crash. Thank you. And it's also the end of the Jazz Age or the Roaring '20s. The sort of finish is with the crash, okay? Good job. I liked how you talked it out. You invented some stuff. I liked it. Okay, so try to help me finish this sentence. In the early 1900s, before the phonograph, Americans consumed popular music primarily through music. This is the music that you read from a piece of paper. A piece of paper. Sheet music, thank you. Okay, so before we had the mass production of where you could listen to the music, people were consuming music by making the music themselves, playing the piano. So the big business, and Americans love to sell things, they love to get rich, was selling sheet music. So Tin Pan Alley, the area where all the music publishers were the people who were publishing sheet music. That was their first core business. But then something happened. What happened? The invention of the radio. Okay, so the radio changed everything, right? These are some of the advertisements you could see, right? Like how you could have parties in your own house. Look, the whole family is happy. But basically, this meant that when we talk about jazz, we talk about music, boom, mass consumption, right? Because you could hear it. You didn't have to just go and listen to it. You could actually hear it at home. So it was kind of a revolution in music, you can imagine, right? So this is Tin Pan Alley. This doesn't look that nice. It didn't look that nice back then either. But it was on 28th Street and Broadway. It was full of music writers, publishers, and pluggers. A plug. So you may know the word plug as like this. It's not one of those, though. So Irving Berlin, have you heard of him? He was a music plugger. So when the phonograph came out, music pluggers were people who demonstrated the music. So when sheet music was the way of sharing music, there were people who, when you were going to buy the music, there was a piano there, and you could have them play it for you so you could hear it. Okay? So the pluggers were basically the commercial people who were trying to sell the sheet music by playing you the songs. Later, it became even more. They would go to venues like a baseball game and play the same song like 30 times, so that by the end of the game, you would have that song in your head and you'd want to buy the sheet music. Later, pluggers, they changed their role. Instead of just playing live, they would, these music publishers, because there wasn't the CIA, the CIA didn't exist in that same way. There wasn't really protection for the writers. So the best thing the publishers would do is they would choose a star, like my star right here, Bruna, and let's say, if Bruna can record this song, I know it's going to sell a lot of copies. So the different publishing houses would make an agreement and have, okay, I'll do this version of it, you do that version of it. And that's how they would that's where we started to get these jazz standards, because different people would have different versions of the same song, right? And so instead of being in competition with each other, they worked together because they all worked in the same building. So that was also the first recording, the first union was born because of this as well. Because if they could get themselves together, they could protect each other and their rights to the music. So the pluggers were often musicians who also became famous because they also became the people who were demonstrating the music and making it more popular. Okay? So at the same time, hoping to stifle the liberal lifestyle and reduce crime, conservative Americans fought back by passing the 18th Amendment to the Constitution, making importing and selling illegal. Alcohol, good for you. Okay, so when we talk about the 18th Amendment, that's the amendment for prohibiting alcohol. Unfortunately, it didn't work. In fact, it had the effect, the opposite effect. You guys are really good. And led directly to the rise of crime, with gangsters like the infamous Al Capone rising to notoriety. What kind of crime? It is mafia. What's another word for mafia? What kind of crime? It's the mob, but we don't say mob crime. Organized crime. Okay? And we don't really use the word, the mafia does exist, of course, but we would have called it the mob. Okay, so Al Capone, famous gangster in Chicago, and he was part of the mob. Okay, so you can imagine these speakeasies, jazz clubs became great places for the mafia to get some footing in the United States. Yep. Some Like It Hot is a film with Marilyn Monroe. In American, it's Some Like It Hot. That's the name of that's the title of, yeah, I love that movie. In fact, there's definitely some mob action in that movie. The Cotton Club, we talked about that, didn't we? Which is also a speakeasy, okay? So what more could you ask for? You had alcohol, jazz, dancing, organized crime, and of course, racism, okay? So the Cotton Club at that point was still in Harlem. Harlem at that time was mostly black neighborhood, okay? It was started by a fighter who had made some money, decided to open the Cotton Club. He didn't stay in the business very long before he sold it to a mob boss, okay, who immediately changed the type of club. It became a very high-level club, okay, very luxurious, and he changed it so that only white people could go, okay? So it was a white-only establishment, which is interesting, right? Because who are the jazz musicians? Black people, right? Of course, there were also white music, because of course the white kids wanted that music too, right? So jazz has always been a mixed bag, right? Because young people want what's new, what's happening. So in the Cotton Club, many African-American artists were allowed to play, but not allowed to socialize. Now this changed. It became a little bit softer later because of Duke Ellington. Duke Ellington had so much power at some point that he was able to convince the owners of the Cotton Club to relax with the whites only rule. But white people who went, Marlene Dietrich, for example, was an habitué. She used to go there, and other famous movie stars, et cetera, because there was something very sexy about going to these kind of clubs that where, you know, black people and white people were together. You know, if you know the history of America, there's always been this problem of racism and segregation, and this was during the time of the Jim Crow laws. And so the Cotton Club was kind of a strange place, because on one hand it was whites only, but it was the one place where white people could go see black entertainment, okay? Here we go. Finally, we've got the flappers. I love this because we tend to think of the flappers as the rule. You know, you see the drop, the fringe, the hemline that's shorter, the feathers, the tube, okay? But it was also a lifestyle. These were women who were like, I don't want to do the whole thing. You know, this is also after World War I. They've lost everything. Like, we want to party too. Why are we doing all this stuff that other people are telling? Why can't we do our own thing? So I love this one too. The great picture. And there's something about the flappers that still kind of intrigues us, especially women. Like, I love the flappers. They just seem so rebellious and so cool. So there's still, like, on the right, you see that this woman is, she's a modern woman doing the dances from the 1920s. So I thought we could look at the dances first, and then we could sing a little song together. What do you think? Should we try it? Are you open to that? Okay, let's do it. I hope that my link works. We can't hear the music, though. Why is that? Maybe if I open it in a different window. Just 1 second here.
Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, I don't mean maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby now. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, I don't mean maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby now. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, what are the bee's knees? It's that dance, okay? Now, if I say that you're the bee's knees, I'm saying that you are the cat's meow. You're fantastic, okay? Now, so we did that. Now, we can sing with this one. Well, first of all, 5'2". I think Bruna's about 5'2". I'm 5'6". Can you stand? Okay. So Bruna's a perfect flapper size. Okay, perfect. So 5'2", eyes of blue. Oh, what 5 foot can do. Should we try to sing it? I got the one with lyrics. We can try to sing, okay? Ready?
Five foot two, eyes of blue, but oh, what those 5 foot could do. Has anybody seen my gal? Turned up nose, turned down hose, flapper, yes sir, one of those. Has anybody seen my gal? Now if you run into a 5 foot two covered with fur, diamond rings and all those things, bet your life it isn't her. But could she love, could she woo, could she coo? Has anybody seen my gal? 2, eyes of blue. But oh, what those 5 foot could do. Has anybody seen my gal? Turned up nose, turned down hose, flapper, yes sir, one of those. Has anybody seen my gal? Now if you run into a 5 foot 2 covered with fur, diamond rings and all those things, bet your life it isn't her. But could she love, could she woo, could she coo? Has anybody seen my gal?
Stop. Huh? A gal is a girl. A gal. It's an informal use of the word girl. So if you look at this is definitely not from the 1920s. The song, yes. This version is from the film. I think it's from a Broadway show that became a film. But the original song was written, I think, in 1915, became popular in the 1920s, and continues to be a popular song. In fact, in my ukulele club, we just did this song. In fact, we did a series at the Italian American Association in Trieste. We did a series of songs from the Tin Pan Alley time, okay? Why is it called Tin Pan Alley? Well, tin pan is what you would use to cook. And there were different ideas about where the name came from. Some say it's because when you're in that neighborhood, all you could hear was just people playing lots of different music, and it just sounded like kids banging on pots and pans outside. Other people said it's because of tin pan goes back to a type of piano. When you have a tenor, a type of piano that's not in tune. And you think that the people who were writing these songs had just an upright, probably cheap piano, probably didn't have the greatest sound. And so Tin Pan Alley was kind of making fun of the type of music that was coming out of there. It was also, this was pop music of the time. When we think about jazz music, sometimes we think, oh, it's so complicated, it's so hard to get into. But if you listen to it, popular music is always very simple. It's always very repeated. And there's a formula. In fact, if you listen to it and you watch it, it's always the same formula. And then there's the moment when they have the solos, for example. But it's still always based on a very, very rigid set of rules. So, and that's for a good reason, because we want these songs to be simple enough so that you can sing them on your own, and that you can sing them with your friends, and that you can also reproduce them. So jazz music from this time, there's a good reason it became standard, because it wasn't complicated. It was very accessible for people. Okay? True or false? The idiomatic expressions, the bee's knees, the cat's meow, and the cat's pajamas date back to the 1920s and mean you are wonderful. True, because you were listening. Well done. But I added a new one. What one did I add? So they were fixated with cats at that time? The cat's meow, the cat's pajamas, I don't know. Okay, during the Jazz Age, for the first time in American history, more people lived in than in rural areas. Cities, well done. True or false? Duke Ellington, an African-American man, worked at a whites-only establishment. True or false? Where did he work? Where did he get his start? At the Cotton Club. It was a whites-only establishment, but he was allowed to entertain, and later he was instrumental in changing the status, right, and making it easier for African Americans also to go there, not only to entertain, but for other reasons. Okay, name 3 famous dance moves made popular during the Jazz Age. 1, Charleston. 2, the bee's knees, and 3, I think it was the Applejack. Did you see the girl dancing? There were 3 of them, right? I think it was called the Applejack. And then what brought the Jazz Age to a close? The crash, when the stock market crashed. In what year? 1929. You're an expert. Congratulations. Well done. With 6 minutes to spare, oh my goodness, take a moment with your partners. I want you to have a little conversation about what's on your mind after this lesson. Okay, so you're going to take 2 minutes, talk to the people next to you about the Jazz Age. Go. Then we'll share what comes to mind. Okay. I heard some comments like, we didn't do very much music. So, what did we learn today? Now, obviously, we didn't just do music, because I would be a terrible teacher in that way. We talked more about the culture, didn't we? Yeah, in the moment. Reactions. What's in your mind? No pressure.
No, the problem is to remember all. What?
The problem is to remember. Would you like a copy of the presentation? Okay. If you would like a copy of the presentation, which I'm very happy to send to you in PDF form, can you leave your with Simone? Can they leave their email with you, and then we send them the PDF? So I did this on purpose so that I could share it with you, okay? Bruno, what's on your mind?
Empty.
Empty. Emptiness.
I'm sorry?
What's your reaction? What's on your mind? Or let's do this. I'm going to come around and ask you one word about how you're feeling now after this lesson. One word only. You can think of one word. Empty was yours.
About the contents, but excited.
Excited. Okay. One word.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Yes, interesting. Yeah, why not?
Interesting. You can't say interesting anymore.
La lezione?
One word.
For me was so difficult.
Difficult.
I'll be going home and listen to some jazz now.
Jazz.
New knowledge.
Knowledge.
Funny.
Funny.
A bit difficult.
Difficult. Now you can't say difficult. It's said twice now.
Funny too.
Funny. Now you can't say funny. It was said twice.
On cloud 9.
Cloud 9. That means he's in love. Yay.
I don't know.
One word. Confused. Heartbroken.
History.
History.
To socialize.
Socialize.
Curious.
Curious.
Chill.
Chill.
Interesting.
Interesting. You can't say interesting anymore.
Another word could be cultured.
Cultured.
Fascinated.
Fascinating.
A little sentence. We wouldn't have had the Roaring Twenties without the prohibition.
It's true. It's true.
Enlightening.
Enlightened.
Ready to party.
Party.
Enriched.
Appreciated.
Yeah.
Difficult.
Nope. New word. That was the fourth person.
Unprepared. Unprepared.
Unprepared.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Learning.
Learning. Wow. Did I get everyone? Oh. Enthusiastic. Did I get everyone? You are really good at this. Can I give you a compliment? Can I give you a compliment? And I want to compliment the people who are at home for doing this. If you're still with us, you're amazing. Thank you, everyone here, because it's difficult to get a big group of people with different levels to participate. And you're amazing. Good for you. Give yourselves a pat on the back and give yourselves a round of applause. Because you are the bee's knees. Okay? We'll see you next week here again, and we're going to continue our conversation, and we're going to go into the 1940s. We're going into my favorite time period. So, because it reminds me of my grandparents. My grandparents were living in Chicago at the time that all the biggest, coolest music was coming out. So I loved hearing those stories from my grandparents. So I'm excited about next week. Have a good week. Bye.